Look who's coming down the street. This ain't no just anybody. One of them, the big fella, his name is Peter. And the other fella walking around looking, his name is John. Here come Peter and John. And I know they wasn't backtracking, they wasn't by. They had to be standing tall because of look who they are. Every time Peter took a step and looked down at his foot, he could be reminded that he's the only human being on this side who had ever been able to walk on the water. John knew he was somebody because he had took a basket of fish and bread and walked among 5,000 folk. And every time somebody reached in and took out the basket, this is Peter and John. They didn't read about him. They were there when he said, love ye one another. They were there when he said, this world is not my home. They were there when he said, beat your swords in the plowshare. They didn't hear nobody talk about it. They were standing right there when he stood in the graveyard and said, Lazarus, come forth. They were there when he mounted up and took off. That's who's coming down the street now and making their way at the hour of prayer to get to the temple, walking hand in hand. I wish I could have done that. I wish I had had the experience I did have to heard Jesus firsthand, to watch him be elevated up. Now they're coming down the street. It's prayer time. You always remember where prayer time is. You're going to need to pray. If you're not praying every day, keep on living. I ain't worried about gas prices. I'm praying to the one that put the gas in here. I'm not worried about a lot of things because I know who made what we have when he made what we have and told me, Davis, listen, don't you worry about eating. Don't you worry about how much beef ever gets. Because I got hamburgers and steak wrapped up in cowhide on the hillside. It's all yours. You can have it. Here they come. Peter and John on their way to church. I wonder what they talked about when they went to church. I wonder if they talked about, you remember when he took that boy's withered hand and made it well? And so I remember. You remember them blind folk that was down there? How he healed them on their way to prayer. Now they get down near the temple. And when they get near the temple, here lies and sits a crippled man. Didn't just get that way. He was born that way. Legs shrunk up and shriveled to where he couldn't walk. He just sit there and take a coin and wrap it in a cup, waiting for folk to come by. That's a good place to sit, is outside the church. Come on, because church folk ought to have mercy on you. And they'd come through and they drop something in the cup. And he stand there rattling his cup while folk went in to pray. But I find it peculiar that if you go in to pray, why you just going to pray for yourself? Why don't you pray for that man? I think that when God can do what he can do. On their way they're walking together talking about him, and they come to the man that rattling his cup and can you hear him out of service? Can you spare? He couldn't have said this, but I want to say it like that. Can you spare a dime? Have you got any money for me? But it's twisted. So every morning they went and got him and sitting down outside the church and all day twisting candy. And now here come Peter and John and walk to where he is, and they hear the cup rattling. And they took a look at him. Naturally, it wasn't John that talked. It always was Peter, because Peter had the biggest mouth of all the 12 disciples. He always had something to say. You know, he's the one that said, Lord, I ain't never going to leave you. Everybody else, I ain't going to leave you. And the Lord had told him, said, don't you know, before the cock crow in the morning, you're going to deny me 3 times. But it's going to be all right. You this is one. But But later on he preached and thousands came to Christ. Now he looks at the man who is begging for what he has, and here's his reply. He says, silver and gold. I ain't rich. I ain't got no whole lot of money. What you want is what I don't have. What you need is what I sure enough have. I'm not here to make you rich. I'm not here to bless you by filling up your cup. Because I don't have silver and I don't have gold. But I tell you what I do have. I'm going to get. Ain't you glad salvation's free? And ain't you glad you can give away what you got? Whatever God gave me, I can give to somebody else. And the more I give, the more I get. If I give love, I get love. If I give grace, I give grace. If I give mercy, I get mercy. If I give joy, I get joy. If I give blessing, I get more blessing. That's the reason I'm a shoveling man. I shovel it out and catch it in. Silver and gold have I none. But I got something. I got a name. I got a name that which every knee gonna bow. I got a name that came from the Father above. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. In the name of Jesus. Every time he said something happened on the inside of the boy. You're ready? Well, I ain't heard of Jesus. You don't have to. I have. In the name of Jesus, rise up and walk. And with that he reached out, took him by the right hand, and what he had, the boy got. His heart started beating faster. Blood began to flow through his veins. Weak knees became strong knees. Blood reached down in the atrophied muscle and picked up the atrophied muscle until he took him by the hand and raised him up. And when the boy looked around, took that cup, threw the cup, and ran in the temple, talking about, look what the Lord done. He's able. Do you know he's able? Can you tell him thank you? Thank you for what you already done. Thank you for what you're getting ready to do. He's able.